They had private jets, relatable role models sharing their knowledge with people.
In one of the chapters, you have covered about job versus career mindset. In fact, helping each other as a couple is the most beautiful thing.
Many toppers in school being women.
Correct.
What happens to them? Families expect you to work for the family as if you don't have a job. And jobs expect you to work as if you don't have a family.
A marriage or having a baby can affect their career growth.
It's for all those girls who are looking at you and imagining possibilities of them becoming you.
What are the major misconceptions or biases about female employees that unintentionally hold us back? Hello everyone, welcome to Beyond JD, the podcast where we uncover the real stories behind roles, growth, and hiring. Today, we are not going to cover another role, but we are going to talk about a much needed topic. Before telling you the topic, I'll share the incident which triggered me to do this episode. Usually, my husband and daughter would accompany me while doing the podcast shoots. During one such podcast shoot, while returning to home, my daughter casually asked, Amma, next time you call a girl, why always boys as guests? That really hit me. So, I just had a simple guest criteria. A person who's in a role for a decent number of years, who has a good career growth, who's working in a reputed company, and who's ready to share their knowledge. Basically, a giving mindset person. I intentionally started checking the filter results. The ratio turns out to be 4:1 men to women. That says something. Yes, there are fewer women leaders when compared to men. And yes, that's the topic today. We are going to talk about women career growth. And to share the practical insights about this, we have a very special guest, Kyle Willie, who is author of the book called Career Women Ter. And this book is also ranked number 1 hot new release in workplace category. Welcome, Kyle Willie.
Hi Soumya, thank you very much for having me here, and thanks to your daughter also for that inspiration.
Thanks for accepting my invite. I'm very glad to host you here. First of all, congratulations on the book launch.
Thank you very much. It was a much awaited one.
Yeah, just curious, what is the turning point or a personal experience which made you feel that this topic needs a special attention or this topic needs to be spoken about that led you to write this book?
Yeah. So, like any, career man or woman, I had a lot of career questions, right? But I had very little or less number of role models, relatable role models who were women leaders in corporate. And even among who were there, their time was very limited, right? To ask for mentorship. We always have this guilt of, are we taking too much of their time? Are we asking silly questions to them? These thoughts used to kind of hit me, right? And then I started reading career books. And they were all written by CEOs, right? Many
Okay.
CEOs,
Huh.
many leadership level women. They had private jets, right? And they had everything needed, like, they have a personal assistant who could take their calls and all of that. On a day-to-day basis, we women don't have those, privileges
Right.
or honor, right? So when all of these things were combined, I wanted relatable role models sharing their knowledge with people. That's when I started mentoring some women also.
Okay.
Right. And then people started talking to me. All this kept happening. I saw the same set of questions or problems come again and again and again, wherever or whichever career stage a woman is in, right? A new joiner also had a lot of questions, a returnee had questions, and the pattern was similar, right? So I was talking to people. At a point when I had my maternity break, I had some time to reflect, think back, and thought, why not put all of this in one place like a repository? So when women cannot wait for calendars of their mentors, they could just take this and get whatever knowledge they want to get out of something, right? So that is how Career Womentor was born.
Very, very powerful. Actually, it's truly the need of the hour. Thank you for doing this. In one of the chapters, you have covered about job versus career mindset, right? In job mindset, a person sees the work as a transactional basis.
True.
They wanted to contribute to their family financially,
Right.
so That's absolutely nothing wrong about it.
Definitely.
Yeah, in fact, helping each other as a couple is the most beautiful thing.
Definitely.
Yeah, but the problem which I see here is a career focused woman, a career focused mindset woman, due to some personal circumstances or some emotional expectations, they are pushed into this job mindset. How can a woman preserve their career mindset and ensure that they don't settle anything less than their potential?
That's an absolutely important question, right? Because Soumya, you tell me, right?
Hmm.
How many, top rankers were there in your? What is the percentage of top ranker women in your 10th standard or your 12th standard?
Of course, I studied in fully women
Wow,
school. Yeah.
even more, even better, right? But you see newspaper
Ha, ha,
results.
ha.
We see all the toppers, many toppers in school being women.
Correct.
What happens to them? And you said the ratio when you started like 1:4. Even that is a very good number, right? In many leadership roles, when you go higher and higher, the ratio is even poor. What happens to those bright minds? What happens to those bright women who were eager, who were talented, who were ready to prove themselves? That's what exam results really show you, right? It's not just they mug up and show something, but
Correct.
they really wanted to invest themselves into academics. But what happens when they really come out of colleges and enter workforce? There is a conditioning in our society for a very long time that women have to do jobs that there's a funny saying that I always quote. Families expect you to you know to work for the family as if you don't have a job, and jobs expect you to work as if you don't have a family,
Correct.
right? The jobs today were designed for men who had 24 hours to themselves, while housewives took care of everything at home.
Correct.
How many times have we all wished we had a housewife, right? Taking care of everything at home so that we can do everything at work. So, when this kind of a conditioning from the society that women have to, take up jobs that are, most suitable so that she can raise a family, and workplace expects them to be on par or even better than their male counterparts. That pull on both sides make women to kind of settle for jobs that are less than their potential, or even get out of workforce completely. That is even worse, right? How many women do we lose? Now, there is a topic about whether it is a choice, whether family needs the mother's care. All of these are definitely caveats, but as a society we are losing 50% of our bright talent, right? That is not something that we can really live with. And the ambitions and dreams are being thrown away, right? So if that should not happen. Now, even in my book, I have made sure the entire onus or ownership cannot always be put on women. They are being pushed and conditioned into a certain mindset. Now, you can't really go tell them you yourself have to get out of this. It's not just women, right? It's women who are going through that, women who have walked the path before them, men who can be allies, right? The entire system and society, everybody have to get into this mindset of women also need to build careers, not just work jobs, right? And women intentionally have to fight to keep their careers, right? And that means it may be long distance relationships, right? It may be seeking a support system help for your child care. It may be making your partner an equal partner in your marriage, in your parenting, right? In the book, I have a separate chapter dedicated completely to managing couple careers.
Oh, nice.
Right? If both are working, we don't have many role models in the previous generation where both were in equally ambitious jobs. Now we have. So, how do we manage couple careers? Right? Why do always women become trailing spouses? Which basically means your husband is working in a foreign country, you're supposed to pack everything, put up your resignation and travel to whichever country they are. And your visas are not guaranteed. You may be on a dependent visa, you may not even be able to work. Everything is like gone for a toss just because you're a trailing spouse, right? So when women also think about their jobs as just a job transactionally, then all these hindrances that come in their way, relocation due to marriage, need for childcare, or caregiving for elders, any of these life situations when thrown at them, the first thing that goes for a toss is their job,
Correct.
right? And my humble request or suggestion would be, please hold on to your jobs and careers as much as possible. Compromising on anything else, it's okay, right? Once my mentor told me, and I kind of still carry it, right? So she was in a lead technology manager kind of a role, not a managing role, but more of a tech lead kind of a role. This was 25 years ago, and most of our classmates were also in similar roles. And when they had their first child, most of our classmates kind of quit their jobs because at that time the salary for the nanny and the salary for themselves were same.
Oh.
Why will I earn, let's say, 20,000 rupees and give 20,000 rupees to a nanny? It didn't make sense for them. But my mentor said it's okay. I'll still do it. I'll still do it because how long are you going to employ a nanny? After the child starts going to school, after things start settling, it becomes easier for you and your salary keeps increasing, your career keeps progressing, right? Those people who took a break at that time, especially, there were no return to work kind of policies at that time, programs at that time. It became really difficult for them to come back to corporate, and they really did not. While my mentor got an opportunity to stay in corporate, grow really well, and she became a director of IT after a point, right? And this is not just for herself, this is also a role model to her child,
Right. Very well
right?
said. Yeah.
Who is looking at her every day. If it's a daughter, you're showcasing what she can become and that she need not settle below her potential. And if it is a son, it's even more important because we teach daughters to be self-independent, self-dependent, do everything. But we don't teach our sons to coexist and support women who are actually independent, right? So I think it's very, very important for women to do that.
That was really an interesting perspective. As you said, the mindset shift should happen in women as well as the whole society, I think so.
Definitely.
They are our support system. So each and every individual should take the responsibility to support their women.
Correct.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. You said a story about your
Mentor.
mentor and the nanny, right? So your mentor really saw that career as her purpose and as her identity.
Definitely.
Yeah. So not just a job, but she might have a clear career strategy for a long-term career strategy, right? So I just came across few young women, young girls who are entering into the workplace, right? They all have a common fear of how a marriage or having a baby can affect their career growth. How to break that fear, or can you give an perspective on how they should view these milestones?
Okay. So I will not lie saying, oh, come on, marriage or childbirth is not going to affect your career at all. If I say that, that would be the biggest lie.
Yeah.
Right? We all know. We have all been there. My only thing is it is going to affect.
Okay.
And there was a chief guest in one of the IIM's convocation ceremony, a woman leader once said, whom you are, whether or not you want to marry and whom you are going to marry is one of the most important career decisions that you make as a woman.
Okay. Or choosing a partner itself a career decision.
Definitely, it is a very important career decision, right? Because if you decide to marry at all, if you're single, that's a different story, right? But if you decide to marry at all, the person whom you're going to share your life with cannot come with the same traditional mindset of my mother did everything for me,
Correct.
right? She put everything on my table. She gave my father his shoes when he left for work. You know, my wife is supposed to do all of that while working a full-time demanding job,
Mm.
right? And it is not just that from a gender role perspective, also about how your partner is able to view you, whether as a competitor, collaborator,
Mm.
right? How does he, really view you
Mm.
in the partnership, right? So choosing your partner is a very important thing if you decide to marry,
Okay.
right? What I would say is marriage is one of the important milestones in your life, but that's not just the most important milestone of your life.
Mm.
There are multiple other things that are also important, but the partner whom you're choosing is the most important person of your life. You like it or not. It so happens in this society. And their outlook towards women and work will definitely affect you, right?
Right.
So, and having a child is biologically. I'll tell you about my own experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
I got married and had a child 7 years after my marriage.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and in the first 7 years of my marriage, since I chose a very supportive partner, I didn't even realize, marriage was affecting my career in any way.
Mm.
It
Mm.
didn't, basically,
Right.
right? And I was doing everything that I was doing. Even better, I have a partner now.
Correct.
Yeah, so there is this kind of my network helps him, his network helps me. We both fuel each other. We both have sounding boards for each other. So we have that kind of a setup, right? In fact, I went to IIM Ahmedabad with his idea
Mm-hmm.
that I should go to a B school and I'd be really good at it and everything, because he had already done his MBA from one of the IIMs,
Okay.
right? So he said you should really do it. I used his GMAT preparatory materials, his book,
Mm-hmm.
to really prepare.
Okay.
And I went to IIM 2 years after my marriage,
Oh, nice.
and we stayed in a long distance relationship after marriage. So all these happened, and I could say that these things happened very seamlessly because I chose a good partner. Now, when coming to a child, it is not the same case.
Correct.
A child alters your entire life in ways you don't expect. Now, I don't know if I'm exaggerating the fear that is already there in women, but a very practical thing is, if you can raise your child and do a full time career both by yourself, can you do it? Absolutely no,
Yeah.
right? Because we have 24 hours, we have two hands, we have one brain. There's only so much you can really do. So, with a child, what matters the most is building your own support system and holding your partner accountable for parenting.
Mm.
And many mothers I see have this mindset of only I know what is best for my child and only I can do it, right? In work, delegation is very important. So is it in your personal life,
Correct.
right? So, how much are you able to delegate, take help? And asking for help is not a weakness, ladies. We should really, get let go of that control mindset and be ready to trust our children with others than us, right? So, who all can we bring on board to be our support system is something. If it is a country where there is paid help, take paid help, else bring your partner really on board, right? As a couple, work this out, and only if you're able to do that can you keep your career. And beyond this, one thing I want to tell these women is, look at life as seasons,
Mm.
right? So marriage is a season, childbirth is a season. Maybe for the first 1 year of your childbirth, you may not be able to do your 100% at work, and it is okay. There are other seasons when your child is more stable, they're going to school, things are kind of sorted. Maybe you'll be able to focus more on work.
Mm.
When they fly the nest, maybe you'll have even more time for work, right? So look at life as seasons. There is no absolute balance. Absolute balance is a myth.
Mm. Mm.
There is not every day you do complete justice to work and home. No one can do that. There are some days where work is going to take more priority, and then there are some other days when life is going to take more priority. Your child is sick, that day absolutely home priority. You have a board meeting, that day child will be taken care of by the father or grandparents or nanny, whatever. Board meeting becomes absolute priority, right? So that kind of a balance is something we should be okay with. And a very important thing that I have highlighted in the book also, we women should be okay with 80% or
Don't
even
aim for this
60%,
perfection.
or even 60%. Progress is any day more important than perfection. And if you're holding back in anything, waiting for that perfect thing to happen to you, or you to do that 100% perfect thing, it's just not going to happen.
Right.
Or it might take ages, which will be too late anyway. When I started this book, for example, I knew I am someone, like all of us, who would want the really perfect output optimized. Only then I can publish and put it out in the world with my name on it, right? But this is a practical thing I did.
Correct.
I told myself that is not going to happen. So what I will do is I'll give myself a timeline. Okay. I have to launch this book before my son turns 1. That was my milestone, the next immediate milestone. By the time my child turns 1, my book should be out, launched. My son is turning 1 tomorrow.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
great. Huh.
happy birthday to him.
Yeah.
And I'm launching the book today, just the day before.
Very nice.
If I had not set the time limit for myself, if I had not boxed the time for myself, I am pretty sure I would have taken another 2 years. And by the time 2 years happen, I might have lost interest in this book and not brought it out at all. Right? So, perfection, don't strive for it. And be okay with 50%, 60%, 80%. Women should be completely okay with doing that. Not just in this, right? In anything. You apply for a job, you don't have to match 100% of the requirements. If you match 60%, go ahead and apply. Let rejecting be their job. You don't self-reject yourself. Right? What is the worst that is going to happen? They're going to say no. It is completely okay. Why should we be so sensitive about taking a no for an answer?
Right.
Right? So that is my suggestion.
Nice. So I was able to relate to whatever you said because I didn't find much difference pre or post marriage of my life, of
True.
my career life, because I had chosen the right partner. So to summarize, choosing the right partner and having our support system is equally
Definitely.
important. As you said, as a woman, we juggle many roles. As a mother, daughter-in-law, wife, everything comes with its own set of expectations and responsibilities. A question on decision making. So before getting into the question, I recently, like before few years, I made a decision to leave my toddler in my hometown. Of course, with her dad and grandparents.
Yeah.
I choose to come to Chennai, be here for 6 months for a career opportunity.
Sure.
So although I ensured to have a happy and safe environment for her, people had many things to talk at my back.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah,
And people have opinions about a mother, whatever you do,
correct.
right? You stay with a child at home, oh, you're wasting your potential. You go to work, oh, you don't care about your child. You live with your grandparents, oh, they are poor old souls. Why will they, spend their retirement life for you? You live with a nanny who's an outsider to care for your child, right? Yeah, yeah.
So the question is, when it comes to decision making, what will be your tips for a woman to make a decision without the emotions overruling them?
So I have a different perspective, right? We are emotional creatures. People might say men are not emotional, women are emotional, and all that. That's not true.
Yeah.
Who's more angry? In general life, men express anger
Correct.
much more than us. Is anger not an emotion? It is an emotion,
is.
right? But since very, very comfortably, women are called emotional,
Correct.
creatures. And emotions cannot be taken out of decisions. We are not AI. We are not computers to make decisions without emotions. We should definitely count emotions in. But, you know, what does that emotion serve you for? That is something that we really need to consider, right? Most of the times, the emotions that put us down or pull us back are emotions of guilt,
Correct.
right? And emotions of some amount of shame that is kind of put on us, right? Guilt, shame, insufficiency. These are emotions that generally pull us back. And there are emotions that really, bring us up, which is confidence, grit, or all resilience, and a lot of these things, right? Not actually, they're more of virtues. Now, how do we make sure, in spite of all these emotions, I'm not saying, leave these emotions and make a decision. In spite of all these emotions, how do you make practical decisions? Is, kind of have an eye on your end goal or where you want to be. The reason why the book also starts with job versus career is because of that. Now, if you have an eye saying, at the end of 5 years, 10 years, this is where I want to go, this is what I won't compromise on, this is my non negotiable, whatever may come, then it makes it easier for you because your journey map is in front of you, or maybe map also not might not be there, but destination is in front of you. You'll somehow find a way to get there.
Right.
Right? Emotions can pull you back, and it's okay to rest, relax, get pulled by emotions back. But just, don't get lost because your destination is in front of you. And guilt, especially for a mother's guilt, hasn't helped anybody in reality, right? Your guilt doesn't help you because as a working woman also, you can be a very good mother. There is no, it's not like you cannot do it at all. If you can build your support system, if your support system is ready to help you, else you take a short break and come back, still you can really, do it. So mother's guilt really doesn't help you, doesn't help your child, doesn't help the society also. Though they say that it is very important, doesn't help you also, the society also. So I think it's time for us to leave the guilt behind and say, it's okay, right? I have a sticker printed. We had
Okay.
some swags printed for the book. I have a sticker printed that says, too ambitious, question mark. Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Right? You call me too ambitious?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. That's all. Right? There's nothing wrong. Let's not make ambition a bad word. Feminism has already been made a bad word, right? Let's not make ambition also a bad word.
Setting a goal helps us to make clear decisions. Yeah, to be precise. Since we spoke about emotional vulnerability, right? I just wanted to dig deeper and ask another question.
Sure.
So, women are always labeled as sensitive if we are quiet and silent, or aggressive if we speak up for ourselves, right? So, how does women should stay confident and be assertive at work?
That's a very important question, right? And there is a chapter dedicated in the book.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah. Talking about assertiveness and not being too submissive, nor being too aggressive,
Okay.
right? So there is a good optimization that needs to happen. Too submissive is also problematic, too aggressive is also problematic. Where do you stay in
Correct.
between? But we also should, understand that this boss trap, it's a double bind for women. If you're too nice, you can't get things done,
Absolutely.
right? If you are as aggressive as another male boss to get things done, you are labeled, Hitler or whatever
Right.
that is. There is no winning this game, right? And don't try to win this game. That is my, suggestion. And whenever there is a label that is put on you, let's say in a performance review, if your manager is going to say your reportees are complaining that you're being too aggressive, then show the mirror to them and say, boss, you are also being the same. I am also being the same. If he's a man, why is it not reflecting bad on you? Why is it reflecting bad on me? Is it just because of my gender? Right? And when people are really questioning your aggression, asking them that difficult question of, is it because of my gender? Many times makes them also reflect. Now, is it my responsibility to educate those people? Maybe not. But we are in that situation, there is no other go.
We
Right.
can't change anyone.
We
Yeah.
can't change anyone. But the perception can affect your career in terms of getting a promotion, or you're too soft to lead kind of a thing also can come on you, right? So how do you balance these two is, making sure you're assertive and communicating that you're being assertive and not being too tough nor being too soft, right? Calling it out explicitly that, I'm standing this middle ground. And there are some times where you need to be aggressive. It's okay. Be unapologetically aggressive. It's okay. At the end of the day, when work gets done, it's okay. If that is the situation's demand, right? So my point here is, too soft, they're going to call you too emotional. Too aggressive, they're going to call you too bossy. So I'd say, you're calling me bossy? No, I'm just being a boss. I'm not being bossy, I'm just being a boss, right? So, this clarity, to have that in your mind so that you don't doubt yourself and speak up for yourself. That is very important, right? And in the book, I have written ally notes
Okay.
in every chapter, right? For example, in the assertiveness chapter, I have written an ally note for the male counterparts. It could be bosses who are leading women. It could be spouses who have a working wife. It could be team members of a woman boss. It could be male colleagues of a woman, right? To understand, read that and understand how they can not label women, but understand that they are being assertive and help them be assertive,
Okay.
right? Support them to be assertive. And this I have written almost in every chapter of the book, right? So that allies really can show up for women. And it is important because when you're being labeled something, instead of you trying to break that label, someone else doing it for you is easier. And as women, I think we should do it for each other also. Let's say in a meeting or in a setup where Soumya is not present, someone is telling me, Soumya is being very arrogant here. Oh, you don't know Soumya? She's being like this. If someone tells me, I shouldn't be hesitant as a fellow woman to challenge that opinion and say, no, Soumya gets things done. She might come across like that for you, but I don't think so, right? Someone being an advocate for you is being important. You being an advocate for another woman is very important. That is where, we should start using sisterhood as a strategy,
Right.
right?
That makes a lot of sense. You made a powerful statement. One should support another woman to be more assertive.
Correct.
Men or women should support a woman to be more assertive.
Right.
That's a very powerful statement. Actually, there is a chapter covering how to decode organization, right? How to understand an organization's culture or structure or power dynamics, likewise. So, what are the major misconceptions or biases about female employees that unintentionally hold us back?
So, biases in personal and work lives hold women back more than we can even imagine. Sometimes those biases are conscious, many times those biases are unconscious.
Okay.
People don't even know that they are biased,
Right.
right? And they are biased. It could start from things like what we discussed, talking about too bossy or too soft, kind of a double bind. Maternal bias is another big thing, right? A woman going for maternity won't be able to do hard work. A mother cannot stay late nights. She won't be open for travel. She won't be ready to take up new projects, whatever, right? Based on maternity, there is a lot of bias. When there are technical things,
Mm-hmm.
people immediately associate it to men, while all the nice to have, wishy washy things, they want to attribute it to women.
Right.
In a meeting, who is asked to take notes? It would mostly be the female people, right? And in a team, who is asked to organize a birthday party for like your colleagues every month birthday celebration? It will mostly be a woman. Why are women being made to do household work for office? We don't have to do office housekeeping, right? We can rotate taking notes
Mm-hmm.
between men and women. These are things unconsciously that keep happening,
Mm.
right? Another nice way of bias showing up is something called benevolent sexism.
Okay.
Okay. So, whenever you say bias or sexism, you think it is very rigid,
Mm-hmm.
aggressive against women. They say, know your place, kind of a thing. Need not be,
Mm-hmm.
right? They can be very, very nice to you,
Mm.
coming to you and saying, you know what, I had this opportunity, but I didn't give it to you because I know you have a baby at home. You really have to take care of them. So I'm not giving you this opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
This is benevolent sexism. This is another bias.
Nice. Okay.
Whether to take up that opportunity or not is at the end of the day the woman's
Let
choice,
the women decide. Correct.
right? So this thing happened in my spouse's organization,
Mm-hmm.
um, prior organization actually. So there was an informal office outing that was being planned, team outing that was being
Okay.
planned, not the official one that office organizes, but something organized
Informal,
within the
yeah.
team informally, right? And you're from Chennai,
Yeah.
you know Tada, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Tada or I think Palavekkadu Lake or one of those areas. You know how safe it is for women,
Mm.
and you know how far it is from the city. There were 3 young mothers in the team,
Okay.
in the team of 8 or 9.
Okay.
There were 3 young mothers, and the team was saying, let us go to Palavekkadu or Tada.
Mm.
Okay. Now, my husband was the one who asked this question, you know, how can these people join if we are going to Tada or Palavekkadu? We should be inclusive. Let us plan something within the city,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
And the answer was, you plan it even right near the office, they're not going to come anyway. So why miss out on our enjoyment for people who won't anyways make it?
Again, the stereotype.
The stereotype, right? Maybe they would not have been able to make it. It's okay.
Mm.
But it is not on you to decide whether or not you present that opportunity to them,
Right.
to really come or not. So the benevolent sexism is one, the bias is another. So all of these biases and microaggressions that are, every day, many times you hear men commenting that, oh, you are not the breadwinner of the family anyway. Your husband works for breadwinning for the family. You work for your own, shopping, or, just as an entertainment or to have fun. Come on, if I really want to have fun, this is not, coming to office is not my way of having fun. No, but that's how people view women making money and men making money. So all these biases are there consciously or unconsciously on women, right? So one is again holding the society, men around you accountable that these biases have to be broken. Organizations also have to, do a lot around unconscious bias breaking, not just the individuals, right? Organizations also have to do this time and again. And like you would have read about the study, right? When the resume names are masked, male resumes and female resumes have equal opportunity to get selected.
Okay.
But when the names are being presented with male and female, the same resume, if it is a male name, it gets selected more often, and if it is a female name, it is not getting selected.
Yeah.
We have,
happening.
we have heard this. This has been done as a formal study survey also.
Mm.
Now, how do we break these things? It is not something that we can do in a year or two, right?
Correct.
Because it's been centuries of conditioning that has made it into this. So, conscious bias breaking in every opportunity that you get is very important. But what happens when you try and challenge every bias thrown at you is you being labeled as an angry feminist.
Mm.
Oh, don't bring this shill anyways, take it very seriously. She's not able to take even a joke,
Mm. Mm.
right?
Mm.
When sexist jokes are made, if you really stand up to it, come on, yeah, it's a joke, right? You do something like that to a man, he wouldn't take it easy either, right? But they'll say, I will take it easy, right? On what grounds? On what things will they take it easy, right? So, according to me, the ways of breaking these biases
Mm-hmm.
is standing up against them.
Okay.
Every time you hear a biased statement, try and correct it.
Mm. Mm. Mm.
It's okay if you come across as an angry person. In the book, I have given like dialogues. What are the biased dialogues that can come at you? And what are some of the examples where you can, throw it back at them,
Mm-hmm.
breaking the bias?
Mm-hmm.
Simple ways that I do is when there is an important, financial call that is being made. Many times, if you see in personal life, people start addressing you as sir.
Mm.
They don't say madam.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Just you pick up the phone, they'll say, hello, sir, I'm calling from this real estate company. You had, expressed interest for this plot. Why?
Mm-hmm.
That's a bias.
Right.
And even worse when it happens over text messages.
Mm-hmm.
So, till the person gets comfortable calling me ma'am, I keep iterating to them saying, not sir, ma'am, not sir, ma'am. It's okay. Even if it is going to take some time, it is completely okay. You press that against them. At least next time when they do it, they'll remember that, okay, someone is going to make my life hard if I'm going to do this. So better I'll wait to see whether it is a sir or ma'am and then maybe, use it, right? Till then I could say sir or ma'am. It's okay.
Mm-hmm.
So that is where this quote that resonates really with me, right? Every time a woman stands up for herself, she doesn't stand up for herself alone. She stands up for the whole generation of women who are coming after her.
Right.
You take my mother. My mother set many stereotypes away. She said, I don't belong to these stereotypes. I'm going to break these stereotypes.
Mm.
And just because she did that at home, a lot of things became easier for me. I did not have to break those stereotypes because my mom had already done it, though it was difficult for her at that
Right.
point.
Mm.
Right? So I know it is difficult for transitioning women, but let us try and do it so that it's not just not beneficial for us. We may even be labeled as angry people.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay because juniors after you,
Mm-hmm.
your daughters, your cousins, your whoever mentees are all going to have it a little more easier.
Mm-hmm.
Even if people have biased opinions in their mind, let them not at least tell it out,
Mm-hmm.
right? They know it is a sensitive topic not to be touched. At least to that level, we need to keep pushing.
To just summarize,
Yeah.
it's a joint responsibility, I guess. It's a responsibility of an individual and
Correct.
also an organization to take steps to break these types of biases and
Biases.
stereotypes. And another one important point which you mentioned is only the first time is hard. The first time breaking a stereotype is hard. But when we do that, we are actually making our generations to get benefited.
Empowering
Yeah,
generations,
That's
right?
the most
Empowering generations, yes.
I wanted to talk about imposter syndrome, which many of women have,
Definitely.
right? So, because we wanted to be that likable person,
Correct.
we overdo things, we overextend ourselves just to be accepted in a crowd or just to be likable. We sometimes have self doubts when we get a feedback. I feel that once we realize our self worth, right, we stop explaining ourselves much.
Correct.
So, what are your advice or tips for a woman to assess their strengths and to build that sense of self worth?
Very practical tip I'll give you, right? So far, I have been talking a lot conceptually. I'll maybe talk about some tips, actionable immediately. Is what I do is I get a lot of self doubt. I get a lot of imposter syndrome myself as well, right? So, what I do is I try and put all the things that I do. Like, for example, today did this podcast. I heard from you that the book had power packed content. You sent me that message. I take a screenshot and put it in a vault,
Nice. Okay.
a digital vault, right? It could be a OneNote, it could be your WhatsApp chat to yourself or a WhatsApp group created for yourself, anywhere. Just keep adding these small things that come your way, because many times our own validation is not enough for us, right? We seek validation from external sources. So whenever you get this validation, put that in one place. And when you have this imposter syndrome, when you have self doubts, go back to that vault and look at what all you have accomplished.
Nice.
And it makes you feel worthy. That is one. The second one is women often have problems self promoting themselves, right? That also comes from self doubt.
Okay.
I don't want to promote my book because I'm a little scared, right? So that is always there, because people might call me braggy. I don't want to come across as a braggish person. Now, how I have kind of tried overcoming this, and it has helped many of my friends as well, is don't look at this book, for example, as my own thing that I am showcasing to the world for my own whatever, right? Pride. No. There is a value that this book brings to this world. Whatever I am doing, it is just not for myself. It is for everyone around me, for whatever reason that is, right? And I have had a very close friend who's like my sister, right? She has had a lot of self doubts and did not want to do many of this promotional, braggy things, or do some of those things. Then I tell her only one thing: you don't do it for yourself, do it for other women around you who are looking up to you. Maybe in your locality you are this most educated, the role model child, right? And you take that effort to promote yourself and bring that out, whatever you have the best in you out. It's not for yourself, it's for all those girls who are looking at you and imagining possibilities of them becoming you. Right? My mother is a teacher. She had a colleague, another teacher, whose kids went to the top university in the state. Both the children, both daughters. And Amma used to travel with that teacher in a bus. She used to listen to the stories and come and tell me, you know what? These Akkas have gone to this university and this is how they studied. This all. Till then, what was theoretically possible for me, for the third standard me, became immediately relatable because I know the Akkas, I have played with them. Now, if they are able to make it there, now I'll also be able to make it there, right? Now, whatever self-promotion you're doing is not just for yourself. It's for so many other women who are looking at you and wanting to do some of these things, holding back. Now they get a relatable role model.
Right, setting an example.
Definitely, right? And you don't have to do it in ways that are becoming a CEO ways, right? It could be simple ways. Showing up and saying, if I can do it, you can do it also. That's a simple message we women need to give each other.
Yeah, we have reached the end of the episode. Thank you so much for sharing such powerful insights. So this is the book Career Womentor, and this book has lot more beyond what we spoke about handling career transitions, negotiating effectively, managing personal finance, and whatever needed for a woman career growth.
It is available on Amazon.
Okay.
It will soon be available on Flipkart also.
Okay.
As physical book copy, and Kindle version is also available. So if people want to order for themselves, it's available. They can just go ahead on Amazon, search for Career Womentor and order.
So thank you so much.
Thank you very
joining.
much. Thank you very much for having me here. It was lovely talking to you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And you're doing a great job by actually doing this podcast, Soumya, and bring more girls, like
Sure.
your daughter said.
Yeah.
All
Okay.
the best.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah. Subscribe to our Beyond JD YouTube channel so that you don't miss when we cover your favorite role or any such interesting topic. Thank you.